Ding Guo has said there is nothing inappropriate with Canada Committee 100 Society activities. Therefore, in Willful Blindness 3rd edition update, I write, in a way, Senator Wu's intervention in the Hague Commission seemed to fulfill his taped pledge to the United Front. He repeatedly filed submissions undermining Canadian intelligence and using Chinese intelligence talking points. My confidence that he appeared to act for Beijing was bolstered by information from a person I call Confidential Source 1, who confirmed that Senator Wu, appointed by Justin Trudeau, was under CSIS investigation. Confidential Source 2 also repeatedly stressed that Conservative Senator Victor O, an advisor to the Canada Committee 100 Society, was a significant target in CSIS's investigation into federal election interference. In Willful Blindness, I write about investigations that began in early 2019. I write, according to 3 national security sources, Liberal Cabinet Minister Mary Ng was identified in CSIS investigations as one of 11 Toronto area candidates clandestinely supported by Chinese consulate and United Front influence networks in the 2019 election. CSIS assessed that Mary Ng was unwittingly implicated in this interference network. Despite my requests, Mary Ng and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office never responded for comment. As I write in Willful Blindness, Mary Ng was one of the key Ontario Liberal government staffers who moved to Ottawa with Trudeau, alongside more high-profile advisors like Katie Telford and Gerald Butts. 2 national security sources indicated that a specific CSIS concern was Ng's staff allegedly meeting privately with a Toronto consulate diplomat to consult on China-related issues. CSIS identified this diplomat, Zhou Wei, as a confirmed intelligence actor. According to one source, quote, we believe Zhou Wei worked with political staffers to provide information on meetings of elected officials and their whereabouts. We know staff have direction to report privately to the consulate on Mary Ng, end quote. This is a critical detail hinted at in the Hague Commission's initial report, which, for some reason, did not disclose the involvement of Mary Ng's staff with Zhou Wei or clarify what this implies about Ng's position in Trudeau's cabinet. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, Sam Cooper. You know what? I let that run the full. It was just so densely packed with info. Yuan Pa Wu, really a senior hand to Justin Trudeau in the Senate, a Liberal. Victor O, a Conservative senator. Now, his term just expired in June because he hit the mandatory retirement age. I was going to say, I certainly hope Pierre Poilievre kicks him out of the caucus. Well, actually, just he aged out of the Senate on his own. But I think that, it certainly seems like he was up to his eyeballs. Let's go to our expert, Andy Lee. Andy, tell me a little bit more about this Canada Committee 100 Society. That's sort of a strange name. It doesn't really tell you what it's about. What does it mean? What's the 100 mean? Who is it? It sounds like it's an operation by the Chinese intelligence side.
Yeah, well, it's a nonprofit. It was founded by Ding Guo, who is an acting advisor on Premier David Abbey's, Canada-China Committee. He's actually authored a book, Ding Guo, and we can put that up. And he posed with Senator Wu. So he wrote about how to turn Richmond into a Chinese city using the nonprofit Canada Committee 100 Society. And I think that was back in around 2018 that they were promoting this book about how they could use this society to turn Richmond into a Chinese city. What does that mean? It kind of, Dingo's a journalist, and he works for a media outlet called Rise Media, and Rise Media, sort of came into the spotlight because Ding Guo prominently featured Parm Bains in the last election. And Parm Bains was seen speaking out very publicly against Kenny Chu's proposed private members bill, which would have introduced foreign agent registration legislation. So all of it these activities always seem to be geared towards stifling this sort of registry being put into place. So Rise Media was one of those media outlets that was maybe linked to Beijing that, publicized Parm Baines and platformed him and maybe contributed to Kenny Chu ultimately losing his seat and killing that legislation. And so that was been noted by the commission. So what's Rise Media? Right? What is it? So Rise Media, I did some digging, it was founded in 2015 by a company called Lahoo.ca. So Lahoo.ca is what? What is it, right? Who made this media platform that we've got Ding Guo using to sort of rally and, put out pro-Beijing talking points and especially try to stifle any sort of foreign agent legislation. So it's a bit unclear as to what Lahoo is. It claims to be based in Burnaby, British Columbia, but I found a interview with a managing editor, and her name is Shui Mingming. And Shui Mingming very clearly starts off her interview, and this is, again, open source information. And she says it's a media company based in China. Where in China, we don't know. But if she's the managing director, she would probably know where it is. Mm-hmm. So she says it's in China. So that's the first thing about Lahoo.ca. And Rise Media is not the only platform that Lahoo runs. They run many, many, many platforms. So I wanted to know more about Lahoo.ca, right? What's the parent company? Again, it's really obscured. And but I did find out a couple of other things. Somebody that manages both Lahoo.ca and Rise Media is a gentleman called Tatu Sheng. Now, he also used to work at the Global Times. And we know that Global Times is a subsidiary of the People's Daily Press, also both implicated in foreign interference operations and election interference. They were flagged during the recent attacks against another outspoken MP and China critic, Michael Chong. So he used to work at Global Times, and now he's editing and directing Lahoo.ca, who puts out Rise Media. And we know that Global Times and the People's Daily Press is run by the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party.
So sort of overwhelming, all the names and the connections. But if I were to sum it up, what you're basically saying is there is a group active at promoting Beijing's political interests. The group is organized and run out of China. It's using and co-opting Canadian politicians, senators, advisors, MPs, and its hand goes straight back to Beijing. I think that's what you're saying. Am I right?
Well, I mean, that's certainly what it seems to look like. And I do agree with Sam when he says, journalists should be looking at the open source information a lot closer and asking questions as to where these lobbies, right, and people who parrot these kind of talking points that seem to be, just CCP mouthpieces, where's their background? Where's it coming from? Again, everything points back to it being really, really closely linked to the Chinese Communist Party. These are the questions that need to be asked, and these are why, perhaps these people do not want a foreign agent registry. For instance, and I love to promote other people who do independent work. Rise Media's Ding Guo last year, he came out with a piece saying that pro-Beijing Chinese Canadians will punish bad politicians with their votes. So, he said, basically, we're going to punish you with our votes. And he said something else really, really interesting, too. He made some comments as to how it could be done. So he said there are, and this is from, I should point out, it's from a Substack, and it's run by a companion of mine who runs a Substack called Found in Translation. So she translated this. And so what Ding Guo said, there are many ways to participate in Canadian politics. The first one is to participate in petitions. And he goes on and on. Now, a few short days after that, Senator Wu launched his petition against a foreign agent registry. So it seems like
they're basically instructing Canadian politicians on what to do.
It seems like Dingguo somewhat set the stage using his media platform to set up people and say, please sign this petition that's coming out. So the petition dropped a few days after that article came out. And, they had been urging people to sign it. And we know that the petition against the foreign agent registry that Senator Wu launched was highly suspect in and of itself.
This was a petition against the foreign agent registry?
Yeah. So, he launched this petition, saying we have to stand against all modern day forms of exclusion and things like that. And what they're really talking about is a foreign agent registry. And that's what was on that recording when he was saying, we're going to try to fight back against this, right? We don't want you guys to have to register. And there's probably good reason for that, is because all of these people who are fighting back against it might be, subjected to the specifications within such an act, and they might have to register. But we know that petition wasn't authored by Senator Wu at all. It was put forward by somebody called Ali Wang. Now, Ali Wang is somebody who has also bombed the Foreign Interference Commission. She runs something called the Canadian Go To Vote Association, which is another third party that came out and fought to unseat Kenny Chiu. And rallied for Parm Baines.
And just to clarify for our viewers, Kenny Chiu is a Chinese Canadian who was against Beijing's control. So the fact that he was ethnically Chinese Canadian didn't save him, because Communist China found him to be an impediment to their aims. Am I right? Am I saying that correctly?
I believe that Kenny Chiu had to go, and that they were trying to kill his legislation. And so they threw their weight behind it using, maybe foreign funded or foreign affiliated media outlets, platforms where a lot of people don't go. We know that British Columbia has a very large Chinese population. And for some of them, English isn't their first language. So what they do is they turn to foreign media. And so what do you see on foreign media is maybe you see somebody who's saying this bill is going to be racist. We're going to, make all Chinese citizens register and things like that. And that puts fear into these citizens and gets them to vote against the person who's putting the legislation forward. And they use the nonprofits and NGOs, and there's so much of this, but most of them are interconnected. I mean, Dingguo knows Ali Wang. They all know Senator Wu. And they all came out with this subtle movement to try to kill a bill being put in place. And that seems to be the big push. And there's no doubt that these people are affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party.